Okay, we are rolling. We are rolling, brother. Champions of Champions Boxing Talk is back. And hopefully it's back with an absolute thriller this weekend. You know, I forgot that it was fight weekend. You know, it's been so long. You know, during the whole of this process, my mind has been all over the place. I forgot details about boxing in just, 6 to 9 months that I knew for 20 odd years, would you believe? But anyway, as the week's drawing on, Lomachenko and Lopez is becoming much more real and much more exciting, and there seems to be more sizzle about this. Well, it is an event we can all get our teeth into. I haven't been making boxing videos for a while because, you get a lot of channels that talk about, how a fighter's left nostril is looking today and how his eyes are looking, and is that an indication that this boxer is going to unify a division, all the gossip stuff. I can't really do that stuff. I have to analyse fights, compare, contrast, that type of stuff, and that's what this video is going to be today, boys and girls. So we have a mighty puncher against a supreme boxing juggernaut. What does that remind you of? We've seen that recently, didn't we? That's right. Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury. We have Lomachenko and Lopez. There are some similarities I feel about this fight. Right? Lopez, what is he? Cruncher puncher. 12 knockouts in 15 fights. His last fight ended in just 2 rounds. Right? He got on the microphone, I think, after that fight and was very confident he could take Lomachenko down. In fact, he was making it sound like he would take Lomachenko on in the car park for free. Right? Then something happened. Lomachenko agreed to the fight. Then the reality sunk in to Lopez that, actually I want a bigger purse. You know why he wants a bigger purse? Because he knows now who he's fighting. And if this goes wrong for Lopez, he wants compensation to pay for them hospital bills. Right? We all saw what Lomachenko did to Anthony Crawler, didn't we? Right? We all know Lomachenko is not going to be a guy that is just going to stand there flat-footed in any way, shape or form and let Lopez detonate that power on him. We also know Lomachenko has a chin. You see, sometimes power is relative to the chins you've been hitting. Keith Thurman found that out. The higher level he faced, the knockouts start to dry up. I wonder, would Lomachenko be as flat on the ground if he took a shot from Lopez as some of Lopez's recent opponents? I somehow doubt it. I think it's going to take multiple shots that Lopez needs to land for him to win this fight. Right? And no one's telling me that a puncher like Lopez, he may not think it intellectually, but when you've had nothing but success with your power, you tend to fall in love with it as a boxer. Right? It's always worked for you. Why wouldn't you love it? But that's the danger. Do you know if you fall in love with your power too much, you get knocked out eventually? That's the irony. You get knocked out eventually if you just rely on your power. Ask Mike Tyson. Ask Deontay Wilder. Right? Eventually they met guys whose games were more complete than theirs. It's just a fact. The master boxer in the end managed to find a way to negate their ferocious power and beat them. And I think Lopez is going to get the shock of his life about who he's about to face. Who on his resume has he got that could even remotely prepare him for this? Now, I'm not saying that Lopez is not capable of producing a miracle. Of course, when you've got that dynamite in your hand, you're always capable of landing the perfect punch. But it's going to need to be. It's going to need to be, right? Because he's fighting a man that can switch hit, fight southpaw, orthodox, great footwork, combination puncher, can be there for war, can be elusive. He's got that ring IQ that very few boxers over the last generation have had. His footwork, probably aside from Manny Pacquiao, is the best. The best. Right? And Marquez found the perfect punch to stop Pacquiao, but Marquez had had 3 fights before and had discovered Pacquiao's rhythm to a certain extent and was still struggling. And Marquez had fought some of the best in the sport. Lopez is taking a quantum leap here. And I know people say it was a bit of a tough physical challenge, Lomachenko and Luke Campbell, but let me tell you something, Luke Campbell is longer than Lopez. If Lomachenko goes to the other side of the, or should I say goes outside, Luke Campbell's length could sort of jab and catch him. Right? He had that ability to do the distance. Plus, he is a bigger frame. So, in a sense, it was a little bit more difficult physically for Lomachenko. I don't think Lopez is as big as Luke Campbell. Again, I think he has more dynamite. I'm not saying that Lopez wouldn't beat Luke Campbell, but styles make fights. This is different. Lopez is not going to be able to use reach as Luke Campbell did, in my opinion. He's not going to be able to, physically engage him being, big and lanky and lean on Lomachenko a bit like Luke Campbell did. Right? I think this is a different dynamic. Plus, I think, Lopez has himself got a good amateur pedigree, right? I'm not saying that he can't box. He is proficient. Again, he's got excellent timing. It is planned what he does. No doubt about it. But again, when Lomachenko's feet going to be still enough for him to detonate? Let me tell you this. The key for Lopez in this fight is the body. He's going to have to go to the body. He's going to have to jab to the body. He's going to have to slow Lomachenko down, because I think a lot of these power punchers, they have a time limit and their bombs start to decrease in power as rounds go on. I think they've got about 4 or 5 rounds. And we're not talking about the heavyweight division here, right? Lopez, for me, has to get Lomachenko slowed in the first 4 rounds with body work. If he gets a chance to jab to that body, jab. Use it. Set things up with it. Time him. If you can make him still, hammer the body with power punches. Eventually the hands will come down and you'll have your chance. But he has to find a way to slow those legs down. This is the key for this fight for me. The antidote to footwork is body shots, but unfortunately the antidote to body shots is footwork. And I think Lomachenko's feet are going to win the day in this fight. I could see Lomachenko giving this guy angles he's never seen before. And in his mind, you don't know, in Lopez's mind, you don't know how difficult it is until you're there, right? And as this fight goes on, I see Lomachenko playing a game of cat and mouse in this game, right? Touching Lopez up, frustrating Lopez. But as the fight goes on and Lopez starts to get frustrated, Lomachenko starts to read him, starts to download that software. I think Lomachenko is going to plant his feet and attempt to detonate Lopez the way he did Anthony Crawler. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Lomachenko either stop him late or win unanimous decision. I can't see Lopez quitting. That boy just seems... I think he's got a mind and a mentality of steel. So I could see him comprehensively surviving unless he's stopped. But I think he'll lose a unanimous decision unless body work is paying off, slows Lomachenko down somehow, and then he can detonate the power. But he's going to need more than one. It's going to take multiple shots, right? Lomachenko is like 30 now, so you never, 30 odd I should say, so you never know the night when them legs don't quite move as well. But we also know Lomachenko has a lot of fight. He's dogged, he's determined. But Lopez, for me, needs to get him where he can, where he's got range. Where he can find the range, because boxing is about spacing. If Lomachenko is all over the ring, it's very hard for the best power puncher in the world to do anything. Power's only good if it lands, right? Lomachenko knows multiple ways how to land, and he can vary his punches. Right hand, left hand. As I said, he's adaptive, reactive, right? I think he's going to touch Lopez, as I said, but as the fight goes on, I think he's going to start sitting on stuff. People associate Lomachenko not being the biggest puncher in the world. Anthony Crawler made that mistake. Look what happened to him when Lomachenko started to sit on his punches. Didn't we see this with Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder? A guy that has unbelievable power, but there was a guy whose chin he couldn't detonate. That was Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury in the first fight got up off the canvas twice. What mentally must that have done to Deontay Wilder? Right? He knows he couldn't stop this guy. Then in the second fight, people presumed, a bit similar to Lomachenko, that Tyson Fury is a skilled boxer, can break you down, but maybe not the biggest puncher in the world. What did a strategist like Tyson Fury do? He completely threw Deontay Wilder off. He came in there with the Kronk style, was aggressive, closed that right hand down, Ricky Hatton Costa Zoo style, sat down on his punches, went to Deontay Wilder's body actually when you actually thought that it needed to be the other way around because Wilder might need to slow Fury's footwork. He sat on his punches and he stopped Deontay Wilder. Tyson Fury looked like a power puncher like Anthony Joshua that night. So don't write off. People like Lomachenko and Tyson Fury, do you know why they're not concussive punchers all the time? Because they're not always sitting down on the shots. That's why. They're moving. You know, they're switch hitters. They're strategists. Those guys generally work you out rather than knock you out quick initially, if that makes sense. But don't underestimate them. If they come for you head on and you're expecting a chess player, it is going to knock your pieces off the board. Right? And yes, Lomachenko for me has been getting tagged a bit too much, but he's aware, lately I should say, but now he's aware he's facing a big puncher. I think he's going to pull out all the stops. I'm expecting Lomachenko to look the most impressive he's looked for a long time because he's not been around in the spotlight. He's going to want to shine, just like Tyson Fury did. Right? And if you watch Tyson Fury v. Otto Welling, it looked a bit of a scramble, didn't it? A bit of a struggle. If you looked at Lomachenko, at times a little bit against Luke Campbell, well, it was a clear win, but Lomachenko has had nights when he was more impressive than that. And I think this is going to be it. I think it's going to resemble somewhat. Bit different. But I think at the end of the night, there are going to be certain things that remind us of Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder 2 in this. Right? So, as I said, the key for Lopez, I can't stress it enough. When you have a guy that has supreme footwork, you have to slow them down. And the way to do that is to invest in body shots. Put some money in the bank and you may get some interest. Don't always headhunt in this fight. He has to slow Lomachenko down to be in range. Right? Lomachenko's key is, I think he knows the key. I don't think he needs me or you to tell him the key. I don't think he needs his trainers to tell him the key. He can figure this out in a couple of rounds. He's capable of it. And if Lopez is figured out in one round, that is going to be a long night. A long night indeed against a technician. Because once a technician figures you out in one round, you are in danger then of being taken out. Because they know you've got nothing for them. You've nothing to keep them honest. If they can avoid it or take it, if Lopez does land a flush punch on Lomachenko and it doesn't have the effect that it has had on his previous foes, Lopez is going to psychologically feel in a bit of trouble, even before Lomachenko starts to get any head of steam. Right? But expect Lomachenko with the danger man in front of him to up his game. Yes, I think Lomachenko sometimes is so in love with his abilities that he sometimes fights a little bit the other guy's fight and beats them at that. But he takes shots in return sometimes. But it's like Pacquiao v Jeff Horn, isn't it? You know, Pacquiao, I thought, won that fight, but he was a little sloppy, weren't he, compared to his usual self. But then watch when he faced Keith Thurman. Watch those first 6 rounds when he knew he was up against a real dangerous man. And a man who is a bit more complete, in my opinion, than Lopez is. Watch Pacquiao in that. You see, the best, Tyson Fury again, sloppy against Otto Welling, supreme in the second Deontay Wilder fight. Because the cream always rises to the top. These pound-for-pound guys have a way of producing their best performances when they face their best opponents. That's what legends are made of. Right? Watch Floyd Mayweather v. Castillo. He's sloppy in that first fight. He's not brilliant in the second fight. Then years later he faces Canelo Alvarez. Supreme. Supreme. Again. Lomachenko v. Rigondeaux. Punch perfect. Rigondeaux wanted the pound-for-pound best at the time. I know Lomachenko was a bigger man, but size really did not beat Rigondeaux that night. Lomachenko's skill alone did it. And he was just overwhelmed. Not saying he should have given up, but he was overwhelmed. So I'm expecting another supreme performance. And I think Lomachenko has, presented himself with great honor in this whole thing. He's the best A-side in boxing. He said to Lopez, okay, you take the money. Come try take the belt. No other A-side would do that. Could you see Floyd Mayweather doing that? If some guy said, no, I want to take XYZ, Floyd Mayweather would say, take it or leave it, pal. If you don't take it, it's your loss. But Lomachenko said, no, I want to put the lion, I want to tame it. I want to show this power puncher that his power ain't got nothing on me. And he's going to need extra money when he gets embarrassed in front of the whole world. Of course, Lopez still has that chance. And again, he does have a good amateur record. But this is a tall order. It's an order that is the size of the Empire State Building. He's faced nothing like this, and I think he's going to get a surprise. Movement from Lomachenko is the key. Figuring the dynamics out is always the key with Lomachenko, but I can't stress, I've said it 3 times now, Lopez needs that body work in there. He needs to find a way to touch that body, to take the air out of the wheels. If he can do that, he's got half a chance then. But if Lomachenko is able to move and just avoid whatever Lopez has, there's trouble. Lopez maybe can find a way to bait Lomachenko in there, but here's the problem. Lomachenko has better hand speed. But the thing is, Lopez might be confident that he could take Lomachenko's 2, and maybe his 1 will do more damage. He's better off than just hitting thin air. But like I said, he can't think. Let's just put the mindset for Lopez out here. Lopez cannot think about being the dynamic puncher. He's got to be the dynamic timer. Things have to be set up. He has to have good timing in this fight. And he can't just be in love with the idea of knocking Lomachenko out with 1 punch. It could happen, but you can't gamble on that when you face the elite. There are levels to this. And I just wonder, does Lopez have that? If it was Mikey Garcia a couple of years ago, who again was a pound-for-pound fighter himself, who had a great snapping jab that could freeze a guy and then allow Mikey to set up a power punch of his own, then yes, but I don't think Lopez has this. I don't, and I think it's too simplistic for people to just say, oh, well, he's got the power. Well, many fighters have power. This might be the hardest puncher Lomachenko has faced, but it's got to get there, and it's got to get there quick. And as I said, the chins that this guy's been hitting are not Lomachenko's. There are levels to skills, there are levels to chins, there are levels to power, there are levels to IQ. And as I said, Lomachenko, for me, is one of the most complete fighters we've seen in a long time. And if Lomachenko finds himself in another, in any sense of trouble, he can adjust, make those adjustments. Adaptive, reactive, fight from either stand. Whatever's not working, he just eliminates it. And he's creative as well. You know, he'll find punches from angles that you're not prepared for when you're sparring. Who can you get to spar to prepare yourself for Lomachenko? You tell me. You can get many power punches in sparring to prepare for a guy like Lopez. I'm not saying that he isn't world class. I'm not saying that this wouldn't be a tremendous win if Lomachenko pulls it off. Because, of course, Lopez could pull it off. This is boxing, as I've said. Always be prepared to be right when you make a prediction. But never be shocked when you're wrong, because this is boxing. Right? But for me, this is a Lomachenko victory. I think psychologically, in the first couple of rounds, is crucial for Lopez. He has to have some success early to the body as well. Right? But I think Lomachenko's footwork will dilute any attempt to that. And I think Lopez is going to get frustrated. He's going to throw power punches, but they're going to take the energy out of him. And again, I could see Lomachenko planting his feet as the fight goes on, taking it to Lopez, maybe even dropping him, maybe even stopping him, but at the bare minimum, taking a unanimous decision. I don't see him going for Lopez as early as Tyson Fury did with Deontay Wilder, because I think Lopez is a more skilled fighter than Deontay Wilder. But at some stage, I can see Lomachenko wanting to put on a show of aggression for the audience. He's going to want to represent himself as a pound-for-pound king like he is. So that's my view. What's your view? Leave it down there. This is Champions of Champions Boxing Talk. I'm out, brother.